Hey everybody, it's PartyElite, and the Total War Warhammer 3 news continues with an additional trailer for the upcoming Champions of Chaos DLC, where we see the new Nurgle faction being led by Festus in action, and then with the gameplay footage that officially released today after having leaked yesterday. The Festus blog post itself didn't have too much to say, and the trailer itself showed only a few new things, so we'll largely focus on the Let's Play details, even though we'll watch the Festus trailer to kick things off. If you enjoyed this video and want more Total War content on the channel, don't hesitate to hit that like button and leave a comment down below. And without further ado, with timestamps down below to skip around as you wish, let's start with a look at the trailer.
Insufficient! No! Of course! The ingredient was life, and it has so willingly come.
Like I said, there's only a few new things in the trailer itself, and truth be told, the trailer's fine. There are some fun Easter eggs in there, don't get me wrong, like how the artifact that broke Luther Harkin's mind is deemed useless by Festus, or the Skaven reference at the start, but otherwise we see a dude walking around picking stuff up and putting it in his cauldron. Doesn't live up to the glory days of trailers like Bretonia, or the Skaven Predator mashup, or the Vampire Coast trailer, at least in my opinion, but my thoughts on the trailer are neither here nor there. In the trailer, we see a Chaos War Shrine dedicated to Nurgle, and we see some Nurgle-specific unit skins littered about as well. The blog post that came with the trailer touched on new faction mechanics specific to Festus. There's the plague brewing he gets from being a Nurgle faction in the first place, though it does have some tweaks we'll talk about in just a little bit, and we also see how plagues spreading adds to his soul count. As discussed in the previous video on this channel about Total War Warhammer 3, souls are a new currency unique to the Champions of Chaos that you gain through standard Total War gameplay actions, and they can be spent in a few different ways. For more information on that, don't hesitate to check out the aforementioned video. I've linked it in the pinned comment down below. Now, his vassals will be spreading Nurgle corruption, of course, and they'll also be gaining poison attacks as well, and we also see that both healing and plagues are more potent for Festus's own army. For more on the actual gameplay mechanics, let's look at bits and pieces from the video that released today, the actual, gameplay footage. There's obviously some overlap with Azazel's gameplay mechanics since they're both Champions of Chaos factions, but let's take a look at all the moving parts nonetheless. Now, first things first, it looks like Festus starts in Albion at the Citadel of Lead, a dark fortress that has access to quite a few powerful and unique buildings. We don't see too many of them highlighted throughout the video, but there are the raid trophies that generate a fair bit of wealth, and the vassal emissaries to generate control, corruption, and increased income from adjacent allied and vassal regions, once again encouraging you to play with fewer holdings and more vassals. To his north is Lost Ericsson's Landing, and to his south, Newland, both belonging to the same faction, and in this gameplay footage, both having been vassalized pretty early on from the looks of it. In the Immortal Empire's map, he'll be starting at the Brass Keep, surrounded by a variety of mortal enemies, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Right off the bat in the video itself, there's mention of taking control of enemy capitals to vassalize them. Now, this could be along the lines of the Dark Fortress conversation from the Azazel blog post from last week, where again, occupying a Dark Fortress in a Norscan homeland capital will make you lord over them as your vassals for as long as you control that homeland capital. There's also early mention that the demonic factions to the north will not provide souls for your campaign, and I take that rather literally, especially since the same was said in the Azazel Let's Play video. This means that you'll be encouraged to spread war and corruption into mortal territories to actually make progress towards your main campaign objectives. At least in the Realms of Chaos campaign, we're not yet sure about the Immortal Empires campaign. Meanwhile, there's this line.
It's said that the best ingredients for a plague can be found in the belly of an ogre. And I didn't just make that up.
Best ingredients can be found in the belly of an ogre. That's what the Festus reveal trailer hinted at as well, but how will that actually translate into gameplay mechanics? Or is that just something they're saying for the sake of saying it? It's possible. I mean, there's a hint of sarcasm here, but between the trailer and this joke, I feel like there's gotta be something, right? Moving on though, we see the variety of options when a settlement is taken. Being a Nurgle faction, you'll naturally gain infections from most of the options, but the new addition is, of course, the Souls resource gained through subjugation and raising. It looks like Souls being used as a currency are separate from Souls being used to reveal the path to Zanbaijin. I would have liked to see them come from the same pool because again, that gives the player something to think about, whether they want to invest in an immediate benefit or save up for the long-term campaign goals could become an interesting balancing act, but as you can see here, they're being kept separate, and souls collected will accumulate to progress the main campaign whether you spend those souls elsewhere or not. When you do cross thresholds, you gain access to more and more rifts from the sound of things, and these will allow you to traverse the lands and seek souls from far and wide much more easily. These rifts will not take you into the realms of chaos, but instead will allow you to traverse the mortal realms much more easily, sort of like the base game itself. Now, keep in mind, rifts first need to be claimed, and only then can you travel through them, and the number you can claim sounds limited by your progress in the main campaign. It's an interesting way to elevate traversal around the map as far as strategic considerations are concerned, because you actually have to think ahead and plan which rifts to prioritize and claim, since you won't just have constant access to as many as you want every so turns, and you have a limited number you can claim at any given time. Further along, we catch a quick glimpse of the Chaos Sorcerer Lord's ability to unlock a few different mount types, including the Chaos War Shrine, which is the new addition coming with this DLC. Moving on, we see the Plague Cauldron, which works very similarly, or rather I should say exactly the same as the base game Cauldron, though with some key tweaks. Each of the elements here seem to have been adjusted for play as a champion of chaos in terms of the benefits you glean. Most notably, that means some of these combinations will now generate souls. We don't see too much here, but I get the feeling that the symptoms and recipes remain unchanged, though the plagues themselves have been given a facelift, as you can see here, with a clear addition of souls benefits from this particular one. We later get to the Warband upgrade window, which we saw in action in the Azazel Let's Play video too, but just to reiterate, it's now possible to actually upgrade your units to higher tier units over time for these Champions of Chaos factions specifically. It's an absolutely excellent idea, and one that works especially well for folks like myself that try not to disband units ever. I grow a little too attached, I guess. Here you can see that units can be either dedicated to Chaos Undivided or to the specific god your faction falls under. Depending on the starting unit, your options obviously vary going higher up the ranks, and you'll need some money as well as unlocked technologies, and the units in question need to be at prerequisite ranks in order to actually perform the upgrades. When they upgrade, they lose all their ranks, so any rank-related buffs are removed, but of course you're getting a higher tier unit from the transaction. In some cases, you can even change the unit type entirely, as you can see with the path into the Chaos Knights highlighted in the video itself. I really like this mechanic, and I'm glad to see it finally integrated in the game. I've been hoping for something like this for a while now. We see it come up again later in the video when the Chaos Knights of Nurgle actually become available as an upgrade option due to the profane weapons technology, as well as, again, the cost itself, as well as the unit being at the right rank. Quite a few action shots follow, and the sync kill from our Dr. Festus here looks like a very fun one, but otherwise we see quite a few Nurgle-themed warriors scattered about as well. I think they're looking quite alright. They're meeting expectations as far as I'm concerned, but I'd be curious to know what you guys think, of course. I always am. I'm just not sure how far they've pushed these units and how much farther perhaps they should have or could have, so I'm curious. I do still feel like these guys were supposed to be part of the base game, but They're here now as part of a DLC instead because money, I'm pretty sure, but feel free to call me a cynic. The video goes on to show more combat and the continued spread of Festus' domain across mortal realms, and there's another reference or two about the ogres being good ingredients for the recipe we saw earlier in the cauldron screen. It would have been an interesting mechanic if acquiring ingredients was an actual thing. Yes, kind of like Grom's cauldron, I suppose, but hey, there's room for exploration and expansion there for sure. I think it would make sense, and it would kind of be interesting to actually send you chasing after various faction types to acquire various ingredients for different kinds of plagues, which aren't, integral to your progress through the campaign, but interesting side quests that you give yourself almost. We'll see how it plays out, but I don't think we're actually getting anything like that as much as the trailers and teasers and voiceovers seem to suggest it. Festus is looking interesting. I'm a little disappointed that the whole cycle of life approach to the buildings is being removed from him, but I understand that as a way to separate the demons from the champions. It was just one of my favorite twists on familiar mechanics in the base game, so I was really hoping to see more of that kind of push rather than just a return to the baseline. Either way, I'm glad to see more visual variety on the battlefield, and he does seem quite well modeled and animated too, no surprise there though. His start positions seem interesting, and that goes especially for his Immortal Empire start, and I am quite curious, not just for Festus, but all of the Champions of Chaos, to see how the push for vassalization goes. It should be a nice change of pace, and I cannot wait to find out. Now, the question is, who do you think is coming next? Tzeentch and then Khorne, or Khorne and then Tzeentch? And whichever way they go, I think there are a few obvious answers as to which champions will be representing either, right? Especially considering a few of the leaks that went out a couple of weeks ago. I will say really quickly, just as a sidebar, the leaks are getting a little grating, and one of the main reasons you'll sometimes see a lack of news coverage for Warhammer 3 on this channel is because things are constantly leaking, and we're not supposed to cover leaks, though some people definitely find loopholes to do it anyway. It becomes a little silly and extremely demotivating when I don't know if I'll actually be among the first ones to get you some news, or if you'll have already seen it on Reddit or in your news feeds or on somebody else's channel already up to, 24 hours beforehand in some cases, and maybe you've already discussed it to death and you're done with the news, or maybe you already know more than I do solely because, again, we're not supposed to talk about leaks, and so I avoid them as best as possible. Hopefully it becomes a thing of the past soon, and all that aside, I am excited to actually sit down with the game itself and start doing more Let's Plays as soon as I can. With all that said about leaks and motivation, this is why your views, likes, and comments make a huge difference. They let me know how many folks are interested in my take, even on older news, and what I should or should not be doing on the channel, and that's why I bring them up all the time. So again, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment down below, feel free to share it. It really does help give me a bit of a signal as to what folks are into and what I should be focusing on. With that said though, this is where we'll wrap up today's video with an eye on next week, and again, whatever next champion is to be revealed then. As always, don't forget to subscribe for more Total War and strategy gaming content, and also, as always, a massive thanks goes out to all of the channel members and patrons who've been supporting the channel on a monthly basis. Y'all keep us alive and running smoothly, and of course, a big ol' thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.